I know these, oh, lasers. I know this is probably the most difficult talk to listen to because you just had lunch and the carbs are kicking in and you will slowly fade and start to feel sleepy and stuff like that. But I'll try to make it really interactive, so hopefully you won't fall asleep on me. If I see anyone falling asleep, I will make everyone stretch, stand up and stretch, okay? So I'm just keeping an eye on all of you. Going to market, startups. This is a clever name. I didn't know how to title my talk, and I decided to use a combination of startups and startups. Very clever. But what I really want to show you is pretty much my experience. This is a very blinding light. You said I didn't have any blinding light. I just want to tell you about my experience and what I have done in my career. Now, I work for BlackBerry, developer relations. So right now I do technical support for developers who are just starting their career in development, also to developers who are experienced, they've got already a company. I see a lot of startups, I see a lot of them, they are going through a phase and they need to understand the market, so they ask advice and I try to guide them and talk them through the different steps. So before starting BlackBerry, prior to joining BlackBerry, I had a startup myself. And I know a little bit about how things go. The first phase that I will identify during a startup creation is ideation. Ideation is a word that I don't like to use because it's probably not the correct one, but it's the one everyone uses. It refers to a process, a constructed process of you sitting down and trying to brainstorm and come up with something. I think ideation is more of you are driving your car, you're going to work on a train, and you get an epiphany. And you're like, oh my God, I haven't thought about these, and why anyone else haven't thought about that. Or you are having dinner with your family, and you suddenly have this burst of ideas going to your brain, and you understand that there is something that you can create. So you start with a problem, and from the problem, there is an overlooked solution, and from there, you try to give a solution to the people. Now, this talk will be mainly about apps. So you are creating software. You're creating an application that users hopefully will use every day. My experience in the startup industry has been a bit different. I was 20, so it was 8 years ago. I was skinned, completely broke. I was kind of a student, and kind of because I didn't really want to study at that time, I just wanted to succeed, to do something. And it's probably the wrong message that I'm sending out, but I've tried with a friend to create something, and I can't really remember when and how the idea came along. I can only remember why I had that idea. So we had electricity bills, and they were really high. We didn't have much money. And we had an idea, and we said there must be a better way to illuminate, to provide lighting to our house. So my friend at the time worked in electronic lab, and he brought home a lot of LEDs. So we had all these LEDs to play with, and we decided to create lighting with LEDs. So we formed a startup, and in around 1 year, we had a prototype, we had everything working, we were going around and telling people about that. A startup is about having something in your mind and making it concrete. Now, you had your idea, and that's the first step. What else do you need to do? I have personally identified 3 more steps in there. If you have a different experience, personally, I would like to hear from you. But this is what I follow normally. When I have an idea for an application, I go through this process. From the idea, so I know what the product kind of will be, I go into design. Now, design is a word that is currently abused a lot. Design doesn't mean that you sit with the designers and you design your application. Design just means that you have to design the final product. The product is from idea to something complete. So when you are designing something, a common misconception is that you only need to have technical people around you. which, in my opinion, is wrong. A marketing person, a salesperson, they could all contribute to the successful creation of the application. Why is that? Think about what you're creating. If you are a developer, is there anyone who's a developer here? Can you do hands up, please? Okay, I'm a developer myself. When I think about something, I always think with my head, not with what the user would like to see. If in the design phase, I have marketing people that can guide me through what the market wants, surely my product will be better. If we do our market research, at least you know what the people want. Because in your mind, there is a successful product, but that may not be the same idea other people would like to see in the market. Immediately after that, you develop the idea. So you split the teams. Designers go design, create the graphics, developers go and code, and then you will have the marketing people trying to come up with a draft, possibly a viral campaign, who knows, that's the marketing, how it works nowadays. And then once everything is done, you test. Testing is possibly the most important phase of this cycle. Testing ensures that your application, your app is working fine. Now, what I see very often is that people try to launch a product that has bugs. People don't like bugs. People hate bugs. If something crashes before your own eyes, then you will be frustrated and you stop using the application. Testing ensures that that doesn't happen, or you minimize the impact. Now, we've got these 4 steps. What is missing, though? During my short career, 8 years, I have identified something that is missing, and it's called iteration. Iteration will make sure that you do the same thing over and over. You split the whole project in small tasks, and in this, every single time, probably every week, you make sure that the task is over before you move on to the next one. If you're familiar with Scrum, this is what Scrum was created for, or if you're a developer, then you know how you create things. You write the code, you save, execute, and test, and then go on and do it again. This is iteration. You do it multiple times, and you ensure that your product is stable before the end release. One of the most important tips that I give is start simple. When you have an idea, probably the idea is very complex in your mind. I always have up ideas, and I want to create them immediately. But what happens is that I have a product that has 500 different phases, and I want to implement all of them in the first stage. That is wrong. I know you all are very keen to start and get the product running and have it in the market, but a product should be simple because you have to be able to launch it in the least amount of time possible. Get feedback. This is the testing phase that I'm talking about. Gather a small group of beta testers, limited people, friends, family, or people in the market. Make them subscribe to a mailing list and say, when we have a beta application ready, we will send it out to you. Make sure that providing feedback is a very simple process. Personally, as a user, if I have to fill a form with 100 checkboxes, I will not do it. If that's the feedback you're looking for, you will not have my feedback because it's too complicated and requires too much time. People nowadays try to optimize and try to use the least amount of time possible. So make it simple. The less complexity, the more feedbacks you will get. And iteration, again, is the key. You iterate, you do small steps, you implement a feature, you make people test that feature, and then you release a new one. When it comes to the ecosystem, the different platforms, I'm not talking specifically to any platform right now, but different platforms have different pricing models. You need to come up with a business model before you even start developing. A business model will ensure that you develop the features that are required for your application to work and to make money. That means that if I want to sell a game, and I want to make sure that people will buy the game, what's my business model? I think 2 years, 3 years back, and I was willing to pay 2-3 euros for a game. Right now, there are some really high-quality games that are free. but they implement a currency inside the game, so you can buy extra coins for extra things. The market is slowly moving to that, which is a freemium model. But does that always work? I was recently in Japan, and I think the stats, I don't want to say something wrong, but it's around 90% or 95% of applications bought in Japan are freemium. And freemium model works really, really well. Now, I can't remember the survey, but I'll look it up later if anyone has questions regarding the statistics, and I'll give it to you. Another way, it's adverts. People love and hate adverts. When they get really good service and the application is free, they don't mind adverts. If the advert is a bit intrusive, then they will want to disable that. So offer them the ability to upgrade the application and remove the adverts. This is a common business model that I see very often. And there are different platforms that give you subscriptions methods. So if you are creating perhaps a music streaming service, subscription could be slightly better than a freemium model. Just make sure that you know your target audience and you know what your target will be willing to pay. In the current market, there are multiple platforms. So when you start creating an application, who should you target? I normally give 2 or 3 tips to people. First of all, know your target platform. Knowing your target platform will make sure that you create the right application for that platform. If you were to create a flashlight application, there are many in the market right now, but if you were to create another one, would you ever publish it on iOS 7, for example? That will be a wrong step, because they already have it in the system. So why would anyone download your application unless it differentiates and is completely different or adds something? So make sure you investigate the platform that you want to target. Second tip that I give is more market share doesn't mean more revenues. And I have 2 examples for that. Personal examples, working for BlackBerry, I have developers that port to BlackBerry, so obviously I will use those examples, but I'm sure other market spaces have similar examples. 2 weeks ago, after a month, I was talking to a developer. He has an application on Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. And I approached him because I wanted the application on BlackBerry, and I said, okay, I will help you technically, I will support you, we'll send you a test device. This is things that we normally do. We provide support to developers. And I will help you convert in the application. So on BlackBerry, basically, you can take the APK, the Android application, and in a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, you can convert it to BlackBerry 10. So you don't have to pay money, you don't have to pay a developer to do that. What he did was exactly that. He converted the application, the APK, and he put it in the market. In a couple of days, the application got approved. He sent me an email 2 weeks ago, and he said, I can't believe I just checked the stats for the downloads. And I'm not going to say what platform, but for a specific platform, he worked on the application 6 months, and he got 70 downloads per day in the first week. On BlackBerry, he converted in around 1 hour, all in all, and he got 300 downloads per day. The other platform has more market share than BlackBerry in the specific country we are talking about. However, how come our platform generated more revenues for him than a platform with more devices? Another example I've got, it's a game. It's actually from the Balkans. It's a Greek developer. He created 2 games. One is called Popcorny, and one is called Flycraft. What we did, we really liked the game. It was only on iOS, I believe, and then he ported it to Android. Or did he port it to Android? I can't remember. It was on iOS, though. We sent him a device. We said, we'll give you this device, a smartphone, or it was a tablet that we sent, and you're going to convert the game and see how it runs. He decided to do it. He went ahead. It took him 1 day to convert it. He put it in our application store, and the game is currently overselling compared to Android and iOS combined. So he's making more money from a platform that has considerably less smartphones than iOS and Android combined. Why is that? You need to know the target audience. What are people willing to pay for? Are people on BlackBerry, on Android, on Windows Phone, on iOS willing to pay for your application? You need to understand better the marketplace. Another tip that I give is go global. Now, we know we are in the Balkans, and this region is actually quite interesting because you got very different cultures, different languages. So if you localize your application to a language that will be used in the most, like you are targeting the Anglophone market, US, the UK, South Africa, Canada. Make sure your application is localized in English. Make sure your application can be accessed easily and it's appealing to people in the other markets. So don't restrict yourself, don't limit yourself. Now that you have all the ideas, now that you have the business model, it's time to build the application. You need to choose a framework that will be useful eventually. So if you want to minimize the costs, obviously you will have to go cross-platform because that's probably the easiest way to get on other platforms. Currently the ones up here are the ones supported by BlackBerry, but there are a few others that are supported from other platforms. So we've got the Android runtime, which allows you to run the APK as I described. You just convert the APK. Adobe currently runs on Android as well, and I believe iOS has Adobe runtime. HTML5 cross-platform, and you can run pretty much anywhere. It doesn't run really well on a specific platform that I'm not going to mention, but again, you can bring that to the browser, the experience to the browser, and users can still use the browser. You can package application in BlackBerry, so you can have a web application using native APIs, but having HTML5, standard HTML5 code will allow you to port it to multiple platforms. And then you can use, if it's a game, Unity exports pretty much everything nowadays. You can use Gameplay 3D is also another framework which is very interesting and can export to different devices. So tips when you are creating an application, what should you do? If a user sees that your application is consuming the battery very fast, it will uninstall it. So make sure that you measure the battery life when your application is running on the device. If your application requires network access, make sure you know what type of network you're on. You're not going to send a 5 megabyte picture over 2G. That is not very feasible. It will take ages and will probably frustrate the user. Make sure that you queue things, wait for the Wi-Fi, wait for an H or 4G connection to arrive, and make sure you exactly know what the experience will be for the user. If I have to wait a long time before my photo gets uploaded onto Facebook, then I will stop using my mobile to upload photos on Facebook. When you launch an application, you need to know what type of licensing you want to use. This is very important in the marketplace. That means that when you launch an application, users could either have no license at all, so they can just download the application and use it, pay one-off, or have a freemium model. It could be a single license, so whenever you get an application downloaded, the user will be released a license. There are different types of licenses that you need to know about. And make sure you track the applications that get downloaded. So if the user downloads an application, check with them if it's okay to have their email address to provide feedbacks, to notify them of updates. It's really good to interact with the user. Beta testing, again, very important phase. It's very difficult to have the application out in the market and receive all the feedbacks back. Remember that you need to test before you launch a production version. You need to pick a very good sample size of people that will be willing to provide feedbacks to you, and to those faithful who have provided feedback, release a free version of the application to them as a reward. That is also really good. It's customer retention, and they will tell their friends, look, I have used this application and it's actually quite awesome. There will be errors. No matter how good you are at developing applications, no matter how your design is flawless, there will be errors. So prepare for the errors. Make sure you can handle them. Create a framework, send logs to you. If anything weird happens in your application, get logs back so you know what's going on. Support the user. This is the most frustrating thing for a user that is using an application. There was an interesting stat about applications on Android that were bought and returned afterwards. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was quite high. So people will buy an application and return it shortly after. Now, if that is to save money because they got the application already, or because they weren't happy with the application, I don't know. But the best way to support the user is make sure that if the user contacts you, you reply back to the email. Always reply back. Analytics is an automated way to tell the development team or graphics team or whoever is involved in the technical side that something is wrong, or to monitor the usage of the application. So for example, if I tap on a functionality of the application 100% of the time and disregard completely the other two functionality of the application, why is that? In what region is this happening? Monitor, understand what the user is doing. There are already good tools to do this. One is called Countly, one is called Flurry. There are SDKs that can be used cross-platform, so anywhere, in any platform that you are on, you can use this to monitor what the user is doing. One thing that as developers miss out on most of the time is the marketing. We're good at creating code, but we're not so good at marketing the application. So if you build the application and you put in the store, will people download it? I will say most of the time the answer is no. Because you need visibility, you need a very appealing product, something that is different, and you need to make sure you engage the right people. So make sure that when you're building, you provide a very good image to the application. Icons are the first things that a user notices. So when you're scrolling through the store, the list of the applications available, what is that attracts your attention? It's the icon, the application name, and when you click on it, it's the screenshots. If there is no description, why would you download that application? You don't know what's doing. Also, user reviews. Just try to find ways to increase the discoverability. There are already tools in every platform. Some platforms do it better, some platforms do it not so much good. But I don't want to say whom, though. Try to make sure that you use all the tools that are on a platform and you gather visibility that way. My personal example, since I see how the BlackBerry platform works, is when a user integrates social into the application, especially BlackBerry Messenger, they get 15 more downloads, as in 15 times more downloads of their application. Why is that? Because if I download an application and I really like it, the first thing I do, I tell my friends that I like the application. But how do you tell your friends? If I was to go to him and say, oh, I've got this really cool application, he will be like, oh, really, really nice. And after 5 minutes, he's talking to someone else, and he already forgot about the application. So how do you do that? From inside the application, there is an invite functionality. They will send an invite to the user. The user will just tap on it. The application will open and download. So it's immediate. And since it's coming from someone you trust, it will be downloaded most of the time. It's not like other social networks when you spam someone's newsfeed by saying, help me get some coins or help me get some wood or gold. I don't know how it works nowadays. People don't want to see that because that's spam. People want to see something personalized. If your application is integrated with the system, people will use it more often. There are applications like Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare. They're really integrated with the system. That if you check in somewhere, you can share a photo of that place. If you are in the photo in the camera application, you can share that photo immediately there. That's integrated. So applications talking to each other. Social, again, you leveraging the social platforms, and beautiful has to be nice looking, because an application with a really bad graphic won't work really well. And there was version 1.0. What happens in version 1.1? If you release an upgrade, the store will send a notification to the user saying there is an upgrade available for you. Ensure that everything works on upgrade. Test the upgrade path before you release it. That's very important. People tend to release an upgrade just because they think the application is working, but sometimes when you upgrade from the store, it doesn't work the same way. When you update your application, it's actually quite interesting because some application stores have a list of trending apps. Trending apps, most downloaded apps. If you send a notification to thousands of users at the same time saying, we have a new release for you, they will go and download the release, which means your application will go in the trending apps, which means it'll go in the most downloaded apps. And more people will see, so that will increase the visibility. Also, if you have tools on the platform, they allow you to contact the users that already bought the application, send them notification. If you have something in-app, push notification, tell them there is a new version, I'm going to connect you to the store. Make sure they upgrade the application. The worst thing that could happen to our application is when it's all outdated, old, and people are not using all the functionality that we're implementing. Complaints are very important. Just think about when you get a complaint for your application, doesn't mean there is just one person that is experiencing that. The funny thing about complaints is only few people will actually bother to send you a feedback saying this app is rubbish, doesn't work, or this functionality stopped working. For every single user that sends you that complaint, think about 100 more that have the same problem. So don't say, single user issue, nothing is going to happen. Very often, other people have the same problem, but will just uninstall the application. Make sure you engage through other social networks, different campaigns. So use Twitter, use blogs. Some platforms, like on BlackBerry, we have a carousel. Other storefronts have also a carousel where the user opens the application store for the first time, and you will start scrolling through the featured applications. That is a really good way of getting more visibility. But also, another good way is reviews. If your application has really good reviews, it will be more visible to your user, to your potential users. Because while scrolling down, if I see 4 stars, 5 stars, I get curious and I think, oh, what is this? Let me have a look, and I read the description. Even without looking at the application name or the application icon, I just read the description because I'm interested in knowing why are people loving this application.